Everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. There's a new report out from Lightman Group that shows that the big mobile operators continue to dominate as far as net new broadband adds. In fact, exceeding cable and fiber operators over 100 times. Be right back with that info. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. I want to take a look at this report from Lightman Group. You see here about 950,000 added broadband in third quarter 2023. So almost a million new broadband subs. That's among all providers that they're tracking. And they're going to be tracking the large guys, the ones that across the country have the greatest percentage of subscribers. Now, there's lots of independent providers and smaller operators that are not in here. So this is tracking those kinds of folks, and we'll see in here. So this is a press release. It's got some notes in here. It's got some specific figures, and there's down at the bottom, you can download a PDF version of this. That's actually what I'm going to look at because I guess it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of read on the screen here. So I'm going to look at the same thing, but just in the PDF. So you see here, Lightman Group, Lightman Research Group, or LRG, found that the largest cable and wireline phone providers and fixed wireless services in the U.S., representing about 96% of the market, acquired about 950,000 net additional broadband internet subscribers in the third quarter of 2023, compared to a pro forma gain of about 865,000 subscribers a year ago, third quarter 2022. And what we'll see here is that the vast majority of that was through two operators, T-Mobile and Verizon, in their fixed wireless products. So that's still kind of astounding that they're having that kind of growth. These top broadband providers now account for 113.9 million subscribers, with top cable companies having about 76.2 million broadband subs, top wireline phone companies having about 30.7 million subs, and top fixed wireless services having about 6.9 million subs. So there's not been much change here as far as over the years, as far as cable's market share and fiber operators' market share. It's been in the 70 to 30% range for both of those. The really big change here in the last few years has been this number here, the 6.9 million subscribers, which did not exist a couple of years ago because T-Mobile and Verizon on the wireless side did not have that service. Obviously, Verizon is also a fiber operator, DSL phone company. But on their wireless side that they've been competing with against AT&T and T-Mobile for years, and then they were mobile primarily only, really, as far as that perspective of, they didn't have fixed wireless. So Verizon got into it kind of early with their millimeter wave product in urban areas. T-Mobile acquired a lot of spectrum. They've been providing the national 5G service through mid-band spectrum. Verizon started doing that now, getting C-band spectrum. AT&T is starting to do a little bit more of that, although they're focusing more on the fiber side. So this is the big change here. Findings for the quarter include, we see overall broadband additions were 110% of the second quarter or third quarter of 2022. So year over year, 110% growth there. Top cable companies added, they were 110% of those. I think it's saying it's just 10% more. Top cable companies added about 5,000 subs in third quarter 2023. Compared with a gain of about 45,000 in the third quarter last year. So you can see the change there. And I've got some numbers I'm going to look at over time that I put together. Wireline telcos had about 525,000 net adds via fiber in the third quarter 2023 and about 520,000 non-fiber net losses. So that shows you what's going on with the phone companies, because you would be thinking, wow, fiber's hot. We should be expecting a big growth there. Well, we are. But really what they're doing is replacing old technology in their existing service areas for the most part. So while they did get 525,000 net adds, they lost 520,000 probably DSL connections there. So they are doing what they can to upgrade their infrastructure to fiber. But as far as net new broadband adds, it's not very many, as we can see here. So fixed wireless 5G home internet services from T-Mobile and Verizon added about 940,000 subscribers in the third quarter compared to 920,000 a year ago. So that you can see they were adding a lot even a year ago, because that's really when things started to kick up. So out of this, what's the number here? 950,000 additional subs. You can see that the mobile operators, again, this is net new broadband subs, got 940,000 of them. So that's like 115 times what the large cable operators and fiber operators were able to do as far as net new subscribers. Top broadband providers added that, largely attributable to the most quarterly net adds ever for fixed wireless, said Bruce Lightman, president for LRG. Over the past year, fixed wireless services have accounted for 101% of the approximately 3,625,000 net broadband additions. So you see here a breakdown of the subs for this past quarter, third quarter. So, and again, they're tracking just the large guys. So you've got Comcast, Charter, Altice, Cable One, Breezeline, and then they've got other major private companies. And I think that just includes, as we look down here, estimates for Cox and Mediacom, both being, I guess, privately owned. So you can see here Comcast, they starting out, or I guess they ended the quarter, with a little over 32,287,000. But that's a drop, basically, of 18,000 subscribers. And you've got Charter. Now, Charter, as we look at them over time, they've been the only cable company that's really been keeping things on the positive side. So they're about 30 million, and you see they gained 600 or 63,000. Then you've got Altice. They've been losing subscribers over time, and they lost again 30,700 subscribers, or about 4.5 million. Cable One a little over 1 million. Shows they lost 500, and then Breezeline 671,000. They lost about 9,000 subs. And then you've got the top wireline phone companies, AT&T. Again, this is just their wireline business. So you got 15.2 million, 0.3 million roughly, lost 8,000 subs. Verizon did gain 7.6 million, and they gained about 50,000 subs there. Frontier also gained. They had almost 2.9 million, gained 16,000 subs. Lumen, very similar number, 2.9 million, but they lost 73,000 subs. And they've been another operator that over time has been losing a lot of subscribers. Got TDS in there, 532,000, so a little over 500,000 subscribers. They gained 9,000, consolidated almost 400,000 subs, gained again a little over 9,000 subscribers there. So you can see that the nets here, 4,777 for cable and 3,392 for the wireline providers. Again, these are just your major providers. I know there are a lot of other operators out there that are doing well and adding subs, but again, this is 90-something% of the market when we look at all of the folks that they're looking at here. And then we've got T-Mobile again and Verizon showing what they're doing on the fixed wireless side. You can see where they were ending up here with T-Mobile at 4.2 million subscribers, Verizon at 2.6, almost 2.7 million. And T-Mobile gained 557,000 subscribers over that time, and Verizon 384,000. So the two of them together again, hitting the 941,000 of the total of the broadband ads that were at 900, a little over, almost 950,000. So you can see again, they were the vast majority of that. See if there's anything. So that's what we basically have in this. So this is basically a summary of this report. You could purchase the whole report if you want to. And I went ahead and I also looked at some older research notes that they have on their site, and you can see they've got something going back to fourth quarter 2021. But when I looked at the numbers, it was actually for the third quarter for broadband. And these include pay TV as well as broadband, the same kinds of numbers we're looking at that we're just looking at on this last summary here in that press release. So I went ahead and put those into a table just to kind of compare. And I looked at the oldest report I could find, which again was showing me the third quarter 2021 numbers. And then I looked at their third quarter 2022 numbers, which we saw some of those in the report we were just looking at, or the summary. Then I looked at last quarter. We saw some of that in there as well. And then obviously this last report. So you can see here Comcast, again, as we look at this over time, Comcast in the third quarter 2 years ago gained 300,000 subscribers. Now, some of this was tail end of pandemic, but by that point, I think a lot of people who were getting broadband because of the pandemic had already gotten it. So they were still very strong here. That dropped to 14,000 in the third quarter the following year. And then second quarter this year, they lost 19,000. A third quarter this year, they lost 18,000. So they're obviously going in the wrong direction there. And then you've got Altice. They've been, I didn't look at any of the time between, like third quarter last year and second quarter this year, or third quarter 2 years ago. So I'm not sure what the trends were. I don't know if they were up or down, any of these operators during that time. But you can see, again, looking at these particular quarters, and you can look, again, I linked to, in the description, I'll link to the press release I was looking at, as well as that page where you can get all of those research notes if you want to dig in and look at some of those other quarters and see what things are doing. But Cable One was similar to Comcast, pretty strong, and then dropped, and then dropping again. Their losses have gone down a little bit more than Comcast have as far as percentage. Then you've got Atlantic, which became BreezeLine. So you'll see in earlier reports it's Atlantic Engineering, I think it is, and then you got BreezeLine. Not Atlantic Engineering, Atlantic anyway, we'll just call them that. So BreezeLine, and then you've got 3,000, and then again losses starting here, almost 10,000, 6,700, 9,000. Now on the telco side, we had AT&T, but with 29,000 in the third quarter 2021, but then losses here for these quarters. And with these operators that are telephone companies, a lot of technology that was prior to this time and even today is DSL. So they're doing what they can to upgrade their infrastructure to fiber. But if they don't get that done quick enough, and there's a competitor out there, it could be a cable operator that comes in or that was already there, or a fixed wireless provider, could be satellite. And I know it. I say it could be. It definitely could be satellite, where you've got maybe slow DSL service and someone tries Starlink out. So they could be losing to any of those technologies if they have DSL and can't get that upgraded quick enough. So we see AT&T has lost subscribers over time, although those losses are less now, probably because they've got more fiber, and they've kind of seen some of those losses, and maybe those losses are less severe now. Then we've got Verizon. So they've been doing strong pretty much the whole time. Now they do have a similar situation, but I think they have less DSL infrastructure. So they've done pretty well, pretty consistent on these quarters that I looked at, 74,000, and then pretty consistent here, 35, 34,000, and then 50,000. So they've bumped up here. Then you've got CenturyLink, Lumen, and the quarters that I looked at not doing well. 77,000 lost, and up to 121,000 a year ago, and then 72,000, 73,000. Frontier, 9,000 sub loss, and when they came out of bankruptcy, they really made a commitment to upgrading their infrastructure to fiber, and I think that's really done well for them. And we can see that they've gained some subscribers over time, especially this last quarter. They've bumped it up to 16,000. So these obviously are outweighed by losses that we're seeing in some of these other providers, both the cable and the telco side. And we got Windstream. For some reason, they were showing, I think that was an asterisk for them as well, as this is estimated, so it must be privately owned. So they had them down for 15,200 in third quarter 2 years ago, 3,500 a year ago, and then it just had zeros. It wasn't saying an A, but it had zeros. So maybe they really were about flat from the best they can tell. So they don't have to report their numbers. So they do. I'm surprised, actually, because Windstream has been doing a lot with public-private partnerships. I know they've done several in our state here with some electric membership co-ops, I believe, or counties, and they've been doing that in other areas where they can. So they've really been promoting the fact that they're going out and doing fiber. So it may be that these numbers are not quite accurate. I'd be surprised that they haven't grown, but then again, it could be that they're losing a lot of subscribers on older DSL technology in areas, and it's kind of balancing out. So again, maybe it's just a net there, and they really are at zero. Whoops, went to the wrong one there. And then we've got 9,200 here for TDS, and they've been pretty consistent. You can see here 9,200 2 years ago, and about 9,000 now. So it's been pretty flat, a little up and down there. Consolidated was losing, but they've been picking up here. And Consolidated has been another one that's been out there doing some public-private partnerships, getting some funds on their own and deploying fiber. So again, that's been the winning strategy there, is to get fiber in the ground as quickly as you can. And then we've got the mobile operators. And again, there's nothing here back in the third quarter of 2021, because this just really wasn't a factor. I don't know if it really even existed back then. Again, Verizon might have started with some of their millimeter wave back then. I can't recall if it was that early, but that would be very negligible as far as subscribers, because that would be, even though it's in urban areas, you've got a lot of competition in those areas with other providers. You've got very small areas you can serve because you've got small cell technology. You have to have line of sight. So they were providing it as an option, because they did have a good amount of millimeter wave. They were providing it as an option for high-speed service in kind of condensed population areas. And again, with the competition that we'd have in those areas, it's going to be a little bit harder to get folks to come over, as opposed to a pent-up demand kind of thing where you're rolling out fiber in an area that you had DSL before, or that wasn't your service, but you're rolling out fiber and there wasn't good service there before, or like Starlink in an area where there's not service. You have pent-up demand where people are going to join quickly. So they may have been doing that back then. T-Mobile pretty quickly got out there with the mid-band spectrum, which they called nationwide 5G, and you can see they've been leading in that area, because they did get out quicker with the mid-band spectrum, which can go a lot further, can go through walls. Much easier to do. You don't need the small cells to do that service. So you can see the numbers that they have here. Then I went ahead and charted that, since I put it in a spreadsheet. I went ahead and charted that just to kind of get a visual, and you can really see the difference. I mean, here again, you've got, this is, your quarters down here. So the blue is the quarter 2 years, or third quarter 2 years ago. And again, you've got Comcast and Charter very strong here, and nothing yet for T-Mobile or Verizon, since they were not really playing in this sandbox at that point. Then you see lots of losses here. You got, again, Lumen, Verizon doing pretty well. AT&T lose. So you can basically the same numbers you just look at just graphically, but you can really see the big difference here in these last three lines as far as what Verizon and T-Mobile are doing. And you can see Comcast losing ground, Charter the whole time doing pretty well. Of course, they had a similarly really good quarter as Comcast did here, but then again, looking good, especially compared to others in this area, but nothing compared to what these mobile guys are doing. So I think that's showing us that 5G is a factor. Okay, when 5G first came out, they were really promoting it as something that would be similar to fiber to the home, multi-gig speeds, because they were talking about millimeter wave, and everything would be mobile and or wireless, but that didn't pan out, again, because of the fact that the millimeter wave is very easily attenuated. You got to do it in close quarters where you've got line of sight. But the mid-band spectrum, that sweet spot where mid-band spectrum is very effective, and they were able to come out, give fairly good pricing, $50 a month, let's say, from T-Mobile. No annual commitment, no annual contract. Basically, you can go month to month. Pretty easy to install. And if you were not happy with your cable company, if you had Comcast or somebody like that, and you were not happy with them, or you had AT&T Fiber, I suppose, and you were not happy with them, could be just the big, bad, huge conglomerate broadband company that you don't get good customer service from, well, then maybe people would try that. They'd go, I'm paying $80 a month for this, or $90 a month for that, and I can get $50, I'm going to give it a try. Now, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, anecdotally, I've heard about people that have gone to the fixed wireless, and if they have another option, if they drop somebody like Xfinity or AT&T Fiber, a lot of times they'll wind up going back to them, because it's not going to be as solid generally yet, at least, as a wired service, especially fiber, I would think. But even Comcast is pretty reliable with all of the PNM that they've got in place, and just the technology that they're deploying is pretty reliable. So some people I know have gone back after trying that wireless, and there's always the issue of, do you have enough spectrum to be able to offer the service everywhere? And that's a concern for people that, especially with BEAD funding, because you want to make sure that you don't leave out areas of the country that all they can get is fixed wireless, let's say through a T-Mobile or a Verizon, because what if they run out of spectrum and they can't then, once they get a certain number of customers, they don't have enough spectrum to be able to serve everybody. That's a problem. So that's something that I know people are worried about as far as BEAD goes, but very interesting to see the impact that T-Mobile and Verizon, and I think AT&T may start doing more of this as well, that they are having on this business. So it just It makes it more incumbent upon the incumbents in an area to make sure that you're providing good service to your customers. And that's not just the broadband connection. That is tech support. That is providing interesting services maybe that you can provide over your connection so that you're not just a dumb pipe, that you've got some stickiness in there with some other services that you provide so that if they drop your broadband, then suddenly they're having to drop other things that you can provide. Those are important things to be doing. Make sure that your billing is correct. If somebody needs tech support and they call, that they can get somebody quickly and get an answer and that they don't get rushed off the phone. Those are all important things. And let me put a plug for us right now that if you are an internet service provider and you're kind of overwhelmed in tech support, we can do that for you. We've been providing internet support for other companies since 1995, I think, 96. Back then it was dial-up, then it became DSL, then we were supporting cable modem and fiber and fixed wireless. Now we support everything. And we can provide that for you 24/7 if you need it, or just when you need us. If you need some help with overflow or after hours or weekends, those kinds of things, look us up. So that's important. Again, customer service, very, very important. And then the other thing, another plug for you, is if you want to add some stickiness to your service, we have cloud-based VoIP service and cloud-based IPTV. So you can provide IPTV or residential or commercial voice service over your broadband network without having to have any equipment, without having to have phone numbers and E911 and all of that stuff. That's all cloud-based, and we handle everything on the back end, so you don't need to worry about that. It's a way that you can immediately increase the value that you're providing over your broadband service. And again, it makes it harder for somebody to quit you if you're providing a good quality voice connection in addition to the data connection, or if they're getting IPTV from you, they're going to think twice maybe about going with T-Mobile or Verizon, because it's like, well, what am I going to do about my TV, or what am I going to do about my voice now? I was getting this great voice service. So keep that in mind as well. You see our contact information on the screen. Thanks for joining me today. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you will be notified when I'm live. And if this was helpful or you like this video, if you give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.